With the event that the woodland is covered with snow, wild boars will make their way to the fields. Due to the fact that there is nothing left to eat in the mountains, they are tearing up the grass, digging out the roots, and even biting through the sacks of cattle feed as if the land itself is theirs. They are capable of destroying the laborious efforts of a farmer over the course of an entire season in only one night. When anything like that occurs, hunters are unable to simply remain still. In spite of the sub-zero temperatures, we set out with rifles, hounds, and a burning determination. What will happen to the next person who loses everything if we do not put a stop to it? There was a blanket of snow that covered the land. It appeared as though the wild boars had completely disappeared from the environment. We brought hunting dogs with us so that we could more readily pinpoint the whereabouts of the boars in these conditions. In addition, the hunt was formally started when one of them suddenly growled loudly and rushed toward the dense woodland. The sound of the hunting dog's calls reverberated across the woodland. The location was promptly inspected by me. I was able to rapidly take position, aim, and track the movement of the wild boar as soon as I noticed it darting through the bushes. I then pulled the trigger on the gun. The slam. Immediately after the shot was fired, the boar fell to the ground. We chose not to quit. In response to a signal from a member of our team, we relocated to a new position. In a short amount of time, I arrived in the intercept zone and carefully surveyed the surrounding area. After what seemed like an eternity, a herd of wild boars suddenly emerged from the opposite side of the forest and charged at me at full speed. My gun was elevated, and I focused my attention on the boar. Howdy! The initial shot barely got a graze on it and then escaped. The subsequent one was immediately struck by the second one. Right there on the spot, it fell. The third and fourth shots were unsuccessful. All of the others disappeared into the forest. Something as simple as a heartbeat that is too slow might cause everything to vanish in the blink of an eye. I proceeded to creep deeper inside, following the footprints of the herd that was hidden inside. I was startled when a boar suddenly darted across my path. I rapidly went up to it while raising my gun to my shoulder. The initial target was not hit. This continued to run. Instantaneously, I reloaded the weapon and pressed the trigger once more. A second shot was successful. The boar was unable to continue its journey and collapsed in the snow, as evidenced by the markings. In order to locate the wild boars, I relocated to a different location and followed the route that led to them. Just then, I became aware of a rustling sound coming from the bushes. I came to a halt, raised my weapon, and moved it so that it was pointing straight at the boars. Suddenly, the herd emerged. The trigger was pulled by me. Wham! The lead boar fell to the ground. Wham! The speed of these wild boars is quite remarkable. Shooting a shot is not an easy task. However, we cannot afford to be in a state of inaction, especially considering the destruction of farmland and cattle enclosures. As the sun began to set, we were aware that we needed to eliminate the remaining boars before we lost our track. While I was making my way through the woodland, I became aware of a shadowy figure that was heading in my direction. After getting into position, I pressed down firmly on the trigger and waited for the shot to be fired. I instantly opened fire on it as soon as it emerged from the trees, even though there was nothing left to protect it. Only 2 of the shots were successful. It continued to charge. Maintaining my composure, I carefully positioned myself for the third shot. In the very center of its neck, the bullet impacted it. The boar was unable to continue running and eventually fell. I was making my way out of the woodland when I noticed a wild boar's shadow visible through a thick shrub. This occurred exactly as I was passing through the bush. The sound of a bang. Almost instantly, I positioned myself to obstruct its passage, raised my gun, and approached it with great caution. What a resounding bang! It's not only a hobby, hunting wild boars is a passion. Protecting the land, the cattle, and preventing local farmers from losing everything they have is the goal of this initiative. Due to the fact that this location had been covered in a thick covering of snow for 2 days, we were forced to postpone the quest. However, as the weather forecast for today was more favorable, we went back to the mountain range. "Check out that!" After spotting several boars below, Henry yelled out in alarm. Because we needed to find a better viewpoint in order to get a clear shot, we were unable to shoot just yet. After ensuring that I was in the correct position, I took a deep breath and then pulled the trigger. When the bullet struck the boar, it was like lightning, and it landed on the ground, killing it. Wham! Do you believe it managed to get away? No way to win. Get a look at it. It is necessary for this beast to weigh at least 150 kilogram. The sound of a bang. There is no doubt that they had recently come through this area. Indeed, our dogs discovered them and immediately began barking in a very loud manner. While we were waiting for Liam to get into position, we gently followed them in the hopes that we would miss our shot. After that, the time had come. We made a signal and then began firing. Despite their attempts to flee, the boars were too late. They would run right into the weapons of hunters who had years of experience. There is one more shot for a boar that is running away, merely to make up for the harm that they have inflicted. At the same time, on a different slope, a massive herd of boars charged out, which took Mervyn completely by surprise. However, this result was the jackpot that we had been anticipating. After they had moved into a more advantageous position, Mervyn waited for them to move. His shot was unsuccessful. He did not give up and persisted in his pursuit of them. To our great relief, our hounds had cornered one of them. There was no time to waste. This time, the boars were unable to flee the area. Wham! In the wild boars are formidable animals that live in the wilderness. Strongly aggressive, incredibly hardy, and amazingly adaptable to severe surroundings are all characteristics of this species. It is possible for an adult to weigh anything from 100 to 150 kilograms, and some guys can even weigh more than 200 kilograms. They are armed with tusks that are razor sharp, which are lethal weapons when they strike back. Because of this risk, every hunt is transformed into a high-stakes competition. Today, I am going to go out once more, and I am prepared to engage in combat in the untamed mountain forests. First and foremost, the mountain near Buznica, which is around 8 kilometers away from Enoch's residence, was selected as the ideal hunting area. As soon as they arrived, everyone went straight back to the positions they had been allocated. While I waited patiently for the prey to come, I made sure that all of my equipment was in good working order. That is the case. Voices started to reverberate from a variety of locations. As soon as I saw the boar racing in my direction, I quickly raised my rifle, sighted it, and pulled the trigger. It wasn't a very enormous one, but it moved at a breakneck speed. During the span of a single second, it fired many bullets. There was one last shot that landed, and it brought it down to the earth just as it was ready to vanish into the brush beneath the trees. Even though the hunt had only started, the stress was already beginning to become overwhelming. It seems as though today might be a significant obstacle for the entire crew. The sun became more intense with each passing minute, necessitating us to conserve our energies in the sweltering heat. We made the decision to bring the hunting dogs with us and proceed with the search. The dogs started barking exactly 15 minutes later, which was a good sign that there was prey in the vicinity. With complete concentration, we surveyed the surrounding area. A violent outburst of the boar occurred, just as was anticipated. I didn't waste any time and immediately began shooting a torrent of rounds. Each of the rounds struck their target. Soon after, the boar, which had been injured and was confused, passed out. As we made our way up the mountain on a narrow path, we were abruptly confronted with a peculiar sound emanating from the bushes that were located off to the side. As soon as I saw the squad approaching, I indicated for them to stop and raised my weapon with caution. "The gun!" At this moment, the other person yelled. It was me who shot. Through a single, powerful shot, the bullet impacted the boar in the head, causing it to fall to the ground immediately. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be able to pull off such a flawless shot. It was necessary for us to position ourselves downwind so that we would not wake up the boars. However, the sweltering heat of the highlands caused everyone to be drenched in sweat, which made the hunt more difficult and intense than it had ever been before. One is available. In response to the sighting of the boar, Enoch yelled out. At a rapid pace, he moved along the path in order to intercept it. Tension increased with each passing second. A moment after the gunshot was fired, the boar promptly fell to the ground. That is a very important hit. At this point, it wouldn't go very far. While I was following the boar in isolation from the rest of the group, I suddenly became aware of the boar's barking becoming increasingly loud. As a matter of course, I raised my rifle out of reflex. As I was caught off guard, the boar charged out of the room. Happily, however, my quick reflexes assisted me in bringing it down in a clean manner. With the thrilling pursuit finally coming to an end, it was now lying lifeless on the ground. I didn't waste any time in pursuing the prey as soon as I spotted it. Almost immediately, I fired. In the end, we were able to successfully bag a number of valuable trophies for today's hunt. Everything went off without a hitch. Following a lengthy and taxing morning, the group found that they had accomplished a lot of success. On the other hand, given the high density of wild boars in this region, it is obvious that we will be coming back for additional cleanup hunts in the near future. In the vicinity of my grandfather's farm, wild boars have been making an increasing number of appearances, which not only cause damage to the crops, but also pose a threat to the cattle under their care. When my grandfather wakes up in the morning, he looks around the pens with a worried expression on his face. He is well aware of the threat that these wild creatures provide. It is for this reason that we have made the decision to organize a hunting expedition, not only to safeguard the animals, but also to bring tranquility back to this cherished land. Early in the morning, as we had arranged in preparation, we made our way to the woodland that was located close to Jason's house. Almost immediately, the hunting crew divided into smaller groups, and each of them was given a distinct route to ambush in the event that wild boars came. When we looked through the binoculars, we were able to see a herd of wild boars running away in the distance. This action did not take very long. However, because they were still quite a distance away, everyone maintained their composure and refrained from firing. After falling behind, there was one wild boar. Instantaneously, I adjusted my gun and turned my attention to him. Wham! It was a crisp shot that rang out. Instantaneously, the boar fell to the ground as soon as it reached the first inch. As we begin our hunt for the day, this is the ideal opening shot. Wham! Ellie was diligently hunting for a target in the quietness of the woodland at the same time as she was silently observing. Wham! In the distance, there was a faint echo of footsteps. It was getting closer to the prey. Immediately, she raised her rifle, her gaze fixated on the wild boar that was in front of her. Wham! At the moment that the boar emerged, Ellie opened fire. Oh, such a picture-perfect moment. Instantaneously, the boar was struck off. The sound of a bang. Who says that being a shooter is only for men? When it comes to Ellie, it is also about having the courage, self-assurance, and a burning enthusiasm. The sound of a bang. While this was going on, a couple of my buddies and I went deeper into the woodland environment. We waited for perhaps 15 minutes before the silence was abruptly broken by a rustling sound. What a resounding bang! This is a moving object. After sending out a warning to the others, I took up a firing position. Instinctively, I shot my weapon when a huge herd of wild boars suddenly appeared in front of us. There was at least one gunshot that hit the target in the hail of bullets. An additional fruitful outcome has been added to our search: the sound of a bang. Due to the deep forest, hunting wild boars in this area has never been an easy task because vision is severely restricted. Nevertheless, we were unable to simply stand there because of the significant damage that they had inflicted. What a resounding bang! With only my gun in my possession, I proceeded deeper into the dense woodland after obtaining information about a boar that was attempting to escape. Tension was sensed in every second of waiting. That was the case. Almost immediately, I fired. The wild boar took a few steps backwards after the shot was fired, and then it soon collapsed on the ground in the wilderness. Wham! The sounds of the hunting dogs reverberated in every way throughout the woodland and other parts of the area. We had to do some maneuvers for around 10 minutes in order to get closer to the area of the boar. Suddenly, a big black figure emerged from the bushes. It was unexpected. The sound of a bang. Immediately, with my pulse hammering and my concentration increasing with each breath, I raised my rifle and quickly pressed the trigger. We exited the dense woodland and made our way toward a vast, verdant meadow that lay ahead of us. It was unnecessary for us to look for the prey object. That task has already been completed by the hunting dogs. Getting a clear image was simpler than it had ever been before in this enormous open area where there was nothing to obscure the view. In a matter of seconds, we were successful in procuring the ultimate target, so calling an end to this arduous hunting excursion. The sound of a bang. Every tour is meticulously organized, and all restrictions regarding the conservation of wildlife and the management of populations are adhered to in a precise manner. Bang, 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 bang it. If you live in Georgia and hear dogs howling at night, you may be sure that either robbers or wild boars have returned to the area. On the other hand, I was not going to wait for them to further destroy anything this time. These boars had become more brazen, and sometimes they would even approach residences during the daytime hours. It was no longer for the sake of sport. We wouldn't have anything left to harvest the following season if we didn't go out there and hunt. What a resounding bang. That being said, I gathered a few others together, brought some hunting dogs and a few rifles, and we went into the woods at the wee hours of the morning. The hours between sunset and nightfall are when wild boars are most active. Consequently, I spent more than an hour traveling around the woodland at the beginning of the day before I was able to observe the initial targets. The 3 boars were moving stealthily through the towering woods that were devoid of leaves. My gun was raised, I aimed it with great accuracy, and I fired a series of shots in rapid succession. One of them was successful in hitting a target. One single boar managed to get away.